I just feel like I'm flowing a lot better and I don't have to think as much about what I need to say or do too much overthinking in terms of, knowing what to say in a video. I mean, hopefully you guys notice that in the videos, but I feel like, I'm talking a lot smoother and my words are just flowing, you know. And I feel like that's because, I put in that effort in, building that consistency and making videos at least, once a week. So, maybe you're watching this and you're also a creator and you also do YouTube and you want to try to improve the way you make videos or talk to a camera. And I would say my biggest advice is to literally just do it. Just practice talking to a camera, telling the camera about your day. And what you're really doing is you're building that trust between the viewer, and in return, it just feels a lot more natural, right? One thing I try to do when I'm, talking to a camera, I sort of just pretend that it's an actual person. When you're talking to an actual person, how do you act? When you're talking to an actual human, are you stiff? Are you uptight? Are you jittery with your words? These are all factors that you have to consider when you're, talking to a camera, talking to an inanimate object. And, you can even go as far as giving your camera a name. So it can sort of, humanize the viewer a bit more. Because sometimes we forget that we're talking to actual people. There's an actual person behind the screen. And, that's what I enjoy so much about making videos, is that sort of connection you have between you and you, the person who's watching this video, right? And acknowledging there's an actual real life person behind this camera, okay? And the same thing when you're talking to someone in real life. If you want them to be kept engaged with the conversation, you need to do certain things, and you can't always act robotic. And I think the main piece of advice to achieve sort of that fluid talking state and sort of just being more calm with your speech is to literally just be yourself. Don't try to talk a certain way or put up this act because you're on camera, but just talk about the way you feel, your feelings, because that's what people like to connect to. That's what shows the human side of talking through a screen. Yeah, and I definitely noticed that I was getting better. I think I'm on like my 20th video or something, but being able to, talk without stopping or having that many pauses or filler words, it allows you to just enjoy making videos more. It allows you to just sort of make videos in the back of your mind, and you don't really overthink it a lot. Because I feel like, the hardest part to, creating a video is, talking to the camera, right? And if you're constantly, worrying about how other people perceive you, or maybe you're taking too long to sort of memorize the script, I feel like that's what ruins making videos, because they're supposed to be natural. They're supposed to be transparent, right? And sometimes I feel like people who constantly sort of like, talk to a camera as if they're writing a script or something, it just doesn't, something feels off, you know what I mean? So yeah, just getting better at making videos, it just makes it more enjoyable. And also I feel like it's just easier all around, I actually noticed I was getting improvement when, talking to camera, making videos through my editing. I noticed I didn't have to edit that many things within my video because I was having, less pauses, less, breaks within my talking, my rants and stuff. And in return, I've been able to, just make a lot more higher quality videos and, videos I'm proud of. And, that's the most important part, is that you're enjoying that process, right? Because if you don't enjoy that process of making a video, then the finished project isn't really worth it at the end, right? Because you're just going to be constantly stressing on about, is this the right thing to say during the video? and you're sort of getting in your head about things that don't really matter. And that's what takes away, the fun of posting on YouTube and being able to connect with that person behind the screen. Because at the end of the day, like, someone out there is going to have better editing than you. They're going to be able to talk about a certain subject in more detail than you. They're going to have better camera quality. They're going to be more experienced, right? But what they cannot replicate is your voice. And that's what I try to always improve on, is just my voice, the way I'm talking, the way I'm trying to connect with that person behind the screen. That's one thing that hundreds and thousands of other YouTubers cannot replicate, is your perspective and your voice. And you really need to double down on that. You really need to show who you are as a person, so that, one, you're telling the truth, you're being truthful to the person watching the video, and also so you can find people who share that similar interest or that similar feeling or similar thought. And maybe you're thinking to yourself, well, I don't know what to say because I haven't found myself. I haven't experienced enough things to talk about certain topics, right? In that case, you just need to go out and experience things. Get out of your comfort zone. Again, I say this, I've repeated this multiple times in my other videos, is you want to strive for uncomfortable situations, because they're only uncomfortable because you haven't done them yet. And maybe that uncomfortable situation is talking to a camera, being able to implement that thought in your brain and to be able to speak it out loud and record it without feeling unnatural. Maybe that's something you struggle with and you want to get better at. And again, it always goes back to just consistency, doing it a little every day, even just, talking to your mirror, or pretending like you're filming, pretend like you're holding up a camera and you're making a video. It's these small things that you repeatedly do that will be more beneficial in the long run. Oh, and another thing, do not compare yourself to other people and other creators. Everyone has their own unique journey when it comes to videography or making videos, right? And it's so easy to compare yourself to a bigger YouTuber or a bigger creator or someone who has more of a following, right? And it can be discouraging a lot. But one thing I would tell you is, again, all these other creators don't have your voice. So build your voice and build your perspective. Make sure it's authentic and real so that you can truthfully connect with people behind the screen.